Sermon of the Week, Knowledge, based on the book of Proverbs. Your Highness, please step forward, sir. The king waved the shabbily dressed man forward. Sir, I am here on behalf of my brother. And, sir, I am here to request the crown's assistance, the man said. What would be the nature of your assistance? Sir, I'm a map maker. Yes, I have a dozen map makers here in my palace. I know, sir, but I and my colleagues have reason to believe your map makers may be making incorrect calculations. Guard, get him out of here, the king roared, standing. The huge guard grabbed him by the coat and began pulling him toward the door to the king's chamber. Sir, I believe the earth is not flat but round, the man shouted. What? The king shouted back. The guard stopped pulling the man. I said the world may be round. Bring him back here, the king ordered. The guard accompanied the man back in front of the king's throne. How would you know the world is not flat? Have you been around it? No, sir, but I'm a map maker and I think it's round, just like a ball. Show me, the king demanded. You have a map? The king motioned. Take him over to the map room. The guard escorted the man through the castle hall to a large room with a huge table. The table was covered in maps. The head map maker stood up from his desk in the corner of the room. Oliver, this man is here seeking assistance from the crown, the king said. Good. What can I do for you, your highness? The king motioned for the man to speak. Sir, I am a map maker stationed in Lisbon. Lisbon? What might you be doing here? The king said. Well, sir, I'm a map maker and I believe the world is round. Many historians have told us so. First the Greek, Pythagoras, deemed it to be round. Then Aristotle, using astronomical calculations, confirmed Pythagoras' theory. Yes, I know. I believe it or not, I am widely read. Leif Erikson discovered a country far to our west in 1000 A.D. In fact, they colonized a place they called Greenland for a century or more. You may not know that our very own St. Brendan of Ireland also discovered land far to our west. The king raised his jaw, proud of his own knowledge. You are correct, your highness, the man said, and for that reason and many of my own, based on mapping, I believe the world is in fact round. Tell me, your highness, why can we only see objects about 7 miles from us? Especially when with the glass we can see mountains 50 or more miles away. King was trying to think of an answer when his map maker piped up. I believe it's because light bends. I don't know about that. My calculations confirm historians, the man said. Assuming your premise is possibly correct, what is the nature of your request? King Henry said. Sir, I'm requesting funding to sail a convoy of ships west to prove my theory, and if proved correct, we will find a route to the Orient. The Far East? Yes, your highness. Well, that puts a new light on things. If I were to find a route to the Orient, our trade economy would double, no, triple. The coffers of England would fill up in a year or less. Sir, would you be willing to fund such a voyage? The King of England, Henry VII, took a long, deep breath. I am impressed with your scientific theory, and I am inclined to believe it. We have such funds and ships, but at this time we are already planning and outfitting our own sailors and explorers for just such a voyage. The king sounded less than convincing, but as King of England, he and they all knew no one was going to argue with him. Well, your grace, I appreciate so much the opportunity to speak to you and give you my presentation. I thank you again and request that I take my leave. The king nodded. May God go with you. The man turned to leave the room in the palace. Sir, if I may, what is your name? I am Bartholomew Columbus. Knowledge is defined as a familiarity, awareness, or understanding of someone or something, such as facts, information, descriptions, or skills, which is acquired through experience or education by perceiving, discovering, or learning. Our world is full of mysteries, at least it is full of mysteries to us. If you believe in an all-powerful God, such as the Christian God of the universe, then you believe that God has infinite knowledge and has chosen to impart at least some of that knowledge to humanity. If you believe in some other all-powerful God, that God also has chosen to impart some but not all of their knowledge to humanity. If you don't believe in God or a God, then you believe man has acquired all his knowledge by himself and continues to acquire more as time passes. So far, all the above possibilities seem to wash. However, it is clear to all humanity that man does have what might be called infinite knowledge. Humanity, and in particular the field of science, realizes that it doesn't know everything, but is determined to find everything out. To find the infinite knowledge, humanity is determined to reach the point of infinite knowledge and is confident it will eventually do so. What man hasn't come to grips with is the possibility that he can't reach such knowledge. If one reads the story of being with far more information, technology, and skill than that of Lucifer, he would realize that it is in fact impossible to reach the point of infinite knowledge. That is, become God himself. Further reading would let humanity know that Lucifer's quest to obtain infinite knowledge and become God himself has been more than an abject failure, and in fact is the reason for the continued chaos in the world, the only world humanity inhabits. Humanity may not believe there is a God or a Lucifer, but it is knowledge, common knowledge, that a myriad of other worlds do exist. And to this day, in 2018, humans have only reached one of them, our Earth's moon. How does the battle go, General? The colonel asked. We are outnumbered 2-1, maybe 3-1, the general said, sweat rolling off his forehead. What do we do? The colonel asked. I don't know. I just don't know. If we keep skirmishing with them, we will soon run out of soldiers. He mopped sweat from his brow and used the glass to stare down at his men. Well, sir, what are our options? The colonel said as an arrow came whizzing by his ear. He was a veteran and didn't even wince. I don't know. We don't have none, the general said. With respect, sir, I believe we do. Well, the option we have currently chosen will certainly fail, the general said, wiping more sweat. It was now in his eyes, and he grabbed another rag to clear his eyes. I agree with you, sir, but what? The general barked. Spit it out, man. Can't you see we're losing? Well, sir, there are three options in most battles. Stand and fight, which we are doing, retreat, or charge, the colonel said, staring down at the raging conflict. So what do you suggest? The general said. Well, sir, if I may. Yes, what is it, man? Men are dying as you hem and haw around. The general was now exasperated. The fourth option would be to flank them, sir, the colonel said evenly. With what? I'm outnumbered 2 or 3-1, sir. They will be outflanking me very soon, he said. Sir, just listen for a minute. I haven't got a minute, the general turned away. If you spread your line by thinning it to make it as long, or maybe a little longer than the enemy's, he may not notice quickly enough, and you could outflank both ends of his lines. If it works, and I believe that is a big if, you could then roll his forces up into a ball, and the congestion of his forces would allow you to systematically kill off his soldiers. The general had heard him despite turning away. Hey, maybe you got something there. The colonel was drawing a detailed plan of his in the soft dirt. The general knelt down, took a stick of his own, and modified the flanks a little more. It just might work. What we're doing now surely isn't. We'll be running for home by sunset. Shall I give the orders? The colonel said. Yes, give the order, but make sure everyone understands it. Done, sir. And colonel, add that once our line is reconfigured, we are to charge full speed into the enemy line. Not march, sir, the colonel said. He was now thinking his little plan was not such a good idea. Yes, a full charge. Our army must hold nothing back. A charge is what the enemy is expecting the least. We'll run him off the field. He waved his sword in the air in a premature celebration. The fact was that this day he would be proven correct. The Battle of Marathon is one of the most famous battles in history, but not for the reasons one would suspect. In 490 BC, Persia ruled the known world. Its territory stretched from China to Europe. It dominated all countries and set rulers in most of them, including Greece. At the time, a country composed of a number of city-states which ruled their own little areas around a major city. Athens was one of these city-states. Darius the Great was ruler of Persia in 490 BC and believed these city-states were becoming too strong and possibly a real threat. To that end, he embarked on an invasion of Greece. He sent a force of 20,000 men in ships across the Aegean Sea to the east coast of Greece. They landed on a flat plain named Marathon, some 25 miles northeast of Athens. The Greek force of some 10,000 men was sent to intercept the Persians. Things looked hopeless until General Miltiades convinced his superiors that if they thinned their line, making it at least as long as that of the Persians, and then charged the Persians at a dead run over a mile of open field, shades of Robert E. Lee ordering Pickett's charge at Gettysburg, the army did exactly as Pickett did some 2,000 years later. In the center, the Persians were able to advance, but the Greek flanks were able to engulf, trap, and slaughter the Persian force. An estimated 6,000 Persians died that day, nearly one-third of their force. Only 192 Greeks perished. The elation of the Greeks was overwhelming. In those days, the Greeks had no cell phones, no telegraph, not even Pony Express. What they did have was runners. These runners were professional couriers and would carry mail or messages many miles all over Greece, in fact, all over the world. It so happened that one of the couriers at the battle that day was a man named Phidippides. He was a 40-year-old man who 2 days earlier had been sent to Sparta, some 75 miles north of Marathon, to request military assistance from the Spartans. So he had run 150 miles in 2 days before the battle. The Spartans said they could not send assistance to Athenians until after the full moon due to religious law. Go figure that one. Eventually they did send a force, which arrived long after the battle was over. The Greek generals wanted to send word to Athens that they had won a great victory, so Phidippides was dispatched to Athens with the news. The route was later measured at 26.2 miles or 42 kilometers. How long did it take Phidippides to run the 26.2 miles to Athens? History does not say. The current world record for the marathon is 2 hours and 2 minutes. As the terrain is rough, it likely took him a bit longer, say 2.5 hours. But what history does tell us is that as soon as he arrived in Athens and proclaimed the news, he fell over dead. The reason is unclear. He had just run 175 miles in 2 days. Maybe it was exhaustion or dehydration or a lethal rhythm. In any event, his news saved Athens from an even greater tragedy. The defeated Persian army was still a deadly force, and they hopped aboard their ships and swung around the southern peninsula of Greece with the intention of attacking Athens from the west. However, the Greeks anticipated this and began preparing for the defense of their city. The army of 10,000 also force-marched across the same route of Phidippides and arrived just as the Persian ships were getting ready to launch their attack. Seeing the Greek army now perched on the shores of Athens, the Persians thought better of the idea and sailed back to Persia. What is clear about man is that he has limits. A marathon is 26.2 miles of a race that a man runs. In fact, millions of men and women run this distance yearly. But as stated earlier, the world record for a man running 26.2 miles is just over 2 hours. Will the 2-hour barrier be broken? I expect it will, but how much faster will a human being ever be able to run it? I doubt he will ever get to an hour and a half. The 4-minute mile barrier was a standard that no one ever broke for centuries, but Roger Bannister finally did break it. Now the record's down to 3 minutes and 50 seconds or so. But how low can we go? 3 minutes, 30 seconds, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute? Man is limited in his capabilities. Man is limited in his knowledge. If the above were not true, man would no longer be man. He would be some other being, a droid, an angel, or some other fantastic beast. Likely in some other worlds in this universe there are fantastic beasts. Our God loves to create. In fact, he lives to create. Genesis 1 ends with verse 31. And God saw everything that he made, and behold, it was very good. Notice what it says. It doesn't say it was okay. It doesn't say it was bad. It doesn't say it was excellent. No, it says it was very good. God was happy with it. It doesn't say he thought it was perfect. He just liked his work. An artist paints a painting. He likes what he had painted. He doesn't think it's perfect. He doesn't even know what perfect is. He is just satisfied with what he has created. I believe God creates like that. He just likes what he has done. He created man with certain limits. That's what defines man. Angels can fly and are invisible to us. That defines what an angel is. God designs his beings to enjoy their limits, their world, their capabilities. He knows they won't enjoy being something else. I wouldn't enjoy being a sheep. I probably wouldn't enjoy being an angel either. All they eat is manna. I can eat all kinds of foods. Steak, bread, fruits, vegetables, dessert, all kinds of delicacies. I'm not sure I would give up such pleasure, say even if I could fly. But wait, read Matthew 22:30. For in the resurrection they are as the angels of God in heaven. Now hold the phone. Hold on just a minute. I have to spend eternity eating manna. The children of Israel got sick of it. The angels were made to enjoy it, but not me. No way. I want to spend eternity dining at one buffet each and every day. Oh no, there will be no more time, no more day or night. If all I get is manna, I can't do it. But wait once more. If I read a little farther in the Bible, I just might be able to stave off this manna diet. Revelation 19:7. Let us be glad and rejoice and give honor to him, for the marriage supper of the Lamb has come. Now that sounds more like it. I bet if I am fortunate enough to get invited to the marriage supper of the Lamb, of Christ himself, my plate will have more on it than a hard bagel or whatever manna is. This sounds more like it, and so I read a little further. Revelation 22:2. In the midst of the street of it, and on either side of the river, was there the tree of life, which bare all 12 manner of fruit. That's more like it. I like fruit, and somebody's got to eat all that fruit. Might as well be me and you. If there's fruit, what other fantastic foods will there be? I hope to find out soon. And check out Isaiah 25:6 and Matthew 22, and of course all remember Matthew 26:29. I will not drink henceforth of this fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom. So there you have it. We will be like angels, but we will be able to remain gourmets. There will be more manna for us to eat. Hallelujah. King Solomon of the Bible is considered the wisest man who ever lived. His 15 minutes of fame came when his judgment of ordering a baby to be divided in half brought out the truth in a courtroom. He was thus able to reverse his verdict and give the baby to the rightful parent. 1 Kings 3 describes a dream Solomon had when he became king of Israel. God asked him what he wanted most. Solomon answered, "Give therefore thy servant an understanding heart." Solomon could have asked for anything, and likely God would have given it to him. Israel as a nation was always in a state of turmoil, always a difficult people. God wanted Solomon to have every edge to preserve the only nation in all the world that would actually worship him, the one who created them, the one who created everything. Genesis 1. So Solomon realized his limits. He knew he needed help with his new task. Now listen to what kind of knowledge Solomon was given. This is taken from the book The Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, verses 17 through 21. Verse 17, "For he hath given me certain knowledge of the things that are, namely, to know how the world was made and the operation of the elements." Verse 18, "The beginning, ending, and the midst of times, the alteration for the turning of the sun and the change of the seasons." Verse 19, "The circuits of years and the positions of stars." Verse 20, "The nature of living creatures and the furies of wild beasts, the violence of winds and the reasonings of men, the diversity of plants and the virtue of roots." Verse 21, and all such things as are either secret or manifest, them I know. The book The Wisdom of Solomon is a Jewish work written in the 2nd century BC. Validity of any work is always called into question. What I have read to you could make sense. Whatever knowledge Solomon was given was certainly a cut above what the run-of-the-mill human had been given or had access to. Take just one point as an example. Don't you think that God would have told Solomon the planet he was living on was actually round, actually a sphere? If he had not told him, then how could Solomon believe all the more extensive facts listed above? And if this fact that the earth is round was known to Solomon, how is it that he did not share it with the scientists of the day? And how in the world is it that it still was not known or accepted as a fact over 2,000 years later in 1492 AD? I tell you how man's an idiot. No, let's hear it from God himself. My spirit shall not always strive with man, Genesis 6:3. God gave man so much, and what did he do with it? Well, let's see. Solomon had all this knowledge, and what did he do with it? Did he build a navy of ships and explore the world that he now knew was round? A world full of wonders? No, he did not. He instead built an army to attack his neighbors. Yes, he built God a wonderful temple to worship, but in his spare free time, what did he do? He courted women. He eventually had a wife for each day of the year and more. He partied every night with a different wife. I imagine the Viagra shortage or whatever love potion was used in those days was always in short supply. Solomon could have explored the entire planet. He could have imparted his vast knowledge to the greater good of all humanity, but no. He just wanted to have fun. If he had explored the world instead of having a perpetual party, I believe Christ would already be here today, and we would be at the heavenly banquet as this is written. But alas, as God knew, as prophecy tells us, it was not to be. It took man over 2,000 more years to bring civilization to the rest of the planet. The reason for this was given by another man with superior knowledge. In 427 BC, Plato, the Greek philosopher, said, for information to be knowledge, 3 criteria must be met. It must be believed, it must be justified, and it must be true. Solomon knew the world was round. He knew it was true, but he also knew he had to prove it. This he did not have time for, and thus no one believed it. Is there anything more egregious, anything more evil than concealing information which is beneficial to humanity? Methinks not. In our first story about Bartholomew Columbus, the most beneficial piece of information to humanity that had been hidden away for more than 2 millennia, Christopher Columbus realized and was determined to change the information into knowledge. He knew it had to be true, but he also realized that he had to justify it or verify it in order for anyone to believe it. Columbus was no scholar. 2 coincidences strike me. His name was Christopher, the name given to our Savior, and he was born on Halloween, 1451. He was no scholar, but he studied voraciously. He read the works of the Greeks, the Romans, Marco Polo, the popes, and many other historians, astronomers, and explorers. He was a sailor and developed a passion for proving the planet was actually round. He lobbied literally around all of Europe trying to obtain resources to explore the ocean, to sail off the end of the world, or as he believed, around it. About 10 years before he actually did sail, he began to ask for resources. In 1485, he asked his own king, the King of Portugal, but was repeatedly turned down. In 1486, he finally obtained an audience with the Queen of Spain, but just like our modern systems work, she referred the matter to committee. And just like our modern system, it took 6 years to finally come up with a positive answer. In the meantime, Columbus went all over the European world. He went to Venice, the Vatican, and Genoa, but was turned down. He finally sent his brother Bartholomew to England, but King Henry VII turned him down. I wonder if Henry VIII would have given him help. I expect he might have. Bartholomew also went to the French king with the same result. What a boon it would have been to any king who had outfitted Columbus with 3 ships. Well, as you know, Spain finally did, and the rest is history. Apologies for the cliche. So what can one take from all this information? The simple answer is use it. Test your limits. Humans have limits, but we don't really know what they are. So if we have information, justify it or verify it, and then it cannot be only believed, but it can be used to better humanity, to make a better world. In the last century in particular, man is doing just that. The stretching of limits, the research in all areas, medicine, construction, use of resources is most gratifying. But with it, man is also acting just like Solomon. He's squandering his spare time. He's partying to excess. Drug use has become an inconquerable monster. Man's government has for centuries before and after Solomon been preoccupied with war. He stretches his limits to learn of the power of the atom, but now uses it as a threat rather than as a benefit. And Solomon's greatest crime was not using his knowledge, his wealth, his power to explore the world, to tell of his God, the creator of all. He failed to impart this information, this better way of life, to the entire world, something it took more than 2,000 years longer to accomplish. For instance, what if there had been television at the time of Christ when he walked on this earth? Why, the gospel would have been preached to all the world 2,000 years ago, and then the end would have come. We would not be on this planet struggling to survive. We would be at the banquet table on an earth made new. We would not be sitting here waiting another 100 million years to evolve into better versions of ourselves. We would not be spending vast resources trying to get along with one another. Think for a minute of all the plagues, all the human sacrifices, all the wars that could have been avoided if he, the wisest man to have ever lived, could have turned all the massive amounts of information he was given by God himself into real knowledge, believed, justified, and true. Take some of your spare time to study the life of Solomon. Learn about it. Learn what he knew, when he knew it, and how he used it. Try to understand what he did and what he could have done with all that knowledge. Then stretch your limits. Use your knowledge. I believe each one of us is unique and that each one of us has a unique cache of knowledge that no one else has. Take the time to learn what your cache of knowledge is. Then study it, research it, and use it for the good of humanity. Each and every one of us has the capability to make our world a better place. Prophecy tells us that our world as we know it will not be around much longer. Past history and our Bible tell us that all of us can live in the world made new, but not all of us will. It also tells us that it is our choice. No one can make it for us. We have to make it all by ourselves. Sit down with yourself or your best friend or with your Bible or your God. Assess your life, your knowledge, your future. When your assessment is complete, I urge you to make plans to join me at that great banquet table in our very own earth made new, at the marriage supper of the Lamb.